everybody. Welcome to Spirit Coffee Talk. All three of us are here today. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We didn't even acknowledge that when we first logged on. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. It's
True.
good to see everyone's face. We've danced around schedules kind of thing and doing on different days, but we're here on a Friday together, and it just feels so comforting. I was saying before we pressed record that it's kind of like when you get together for a girls' night on a Friday night and you're pulling cards and talking spirit and being vulnerable, and that's what the feels of today is. The week has been ups and downs and all arounds. For me personally, it's been a bit quiet with my connection with spirit. But it's so nice to connect with these two lovely ladies, because I feel like the energy of the three of us when we come together creates its own entity in itself. And so we're just going to explore that today, and with the intention of bringing forward any messages for the greatest good, we're all going to kind of tune in and connect our energies, our heart energies, to be able to bring forward today, not only for everyone that's watching and taking part in this, but for us as well. And going into the weekend and kind of that extra little boost of connection that you can get from community. And sometimes it feels, I don't know, a bit different, I guess, when you're behind a screen. But I just feel like with this and us all being together, creating that kind of community with us and spirit and our guides today, and being able to kind of like extend that energy out to everybody that's watching is our little gift today. So welcome. And let's see what's in store. This is kind of like a bonus type episode with us and spirits. Usually we have something tangible. It's like, okay, this is what's going on with our planets or the moon, or energetically, or something has transpired within one of us. It's bringing forward. And I think today spirit wants us to just kind of hunker in a comfortable way to be able to bring through some love and light for not only us, but everybody else. So in saying that, how are we feeling? G, you getting it?
Oh, I totally am.
Yeah, I know you are.
Would it be rude if I
it.
closed my eyes while she's talking?
Just do it.
Yeah, G's gonna bring through a channel for us.
Keep them open. Keep them open. Oh my gosh. So there's this really interesting feeling that happens when like a channel or a real deep connection with spirit comes through, and it like wants to pull you into almost what feels like a sleep. But the minute you close your eyes or you go into that astral space, it's so active and it's so alive. So I'm just going to close my eyes because already that makes it so much easier. So this is going to be a direct channel, so speaking directly through me. It's the three guides of the light. They have been kind of hovering around the periphery, kind of waiting for an opportunity to come in. So this is quite timely. So I'm just going to take a moment and merge with them, and then I will share what comes through. We are the three guides of the light, and we are grateful for this opportunity to come through. We have often spoken about the idea of expanding your consciousness into that perception of being in the stands, looking at the world as the game happening and you being in the stands, and that perspective from the stands gives you the ability to observe all that is going on rather than being stuck just in the game. However, today we want to change that and bring a fresh perspective for you specifically. When you consider your own individual life and your ability to co-create with the universe, we want you to move from being in that position on the stands to being in that position of the game. When you're sitting in the stands, you are helpless to what happens in the game. Your only opportunity is to react to what unfolds. You can cheer, you could cry, you could scream, you could celebrate, but you're limited to observing what happens. However, when you change your perspective from being in the stands to being the active participant in the game, on the court, on the field, or on the ice, as you wish to see it, you then are taking part in the actions of co-creating your reality. We say co-create because you are not simply observing, you are not simply playing, but you're also reacting to those that are playing with you in the game. All you can control is your actions and reactions. You may anticipate an event or you may react to an event, but it's always your choice if you choose to move or stay still. You could choose to stay still and let the ball hit you in your face, which would cause pain. Or you can choose to be active in the game and observant, and then react as you see the ball coming to you, thus preventing it hitting you in the face. In this case, you have the ability to catch the ball and then throw it to where you desire, and that is very much your part in the co-creation. So as we enter into these new energies now, we ask you to be involved in the game. Move from being in the stands and move back to being in the game, because we are in a very, very high manifestation energy. Not only for you on your planet, but for all of us within the galaxy. There is an energy of momentum, of movement, and of transformation, where actions and reactions create the next steps. There's no longer pause. We're not in a timeout. You are simply in the game. So we encourage you now to play in this game. Open your hearts, open your minds, open your ability to observe all that is around you and within you so that you may play to the best of your ability and create the wins that you so desire. We bring this with love and energy for your hearts to inspire you to move forward. We also bring you the encouragement and the reassurance that you do in fact know how to play this game. And if there are moments where you feel like you don't, simply pause, recalibrate, and observe. You are very quick learners in all ways. So use this ability to move through the game, knowing you have everything you need to do so. All you need to do is take the next step. And with this, we are grateful for the opportunity to come through. I was seeing all kinds of games. They were showing it to me in like every possible way, like soccer, cricket, rugby, football, hockey, like in every which way. So I really want to say that because the visual was like, use this analogy with whatever game resonates for you and see yourself as a player in that game. It could even be table tennis. They're showing me, they're like, it's literally anything, but it's about moving from the observer to being the participant in it. Yeah. Interesting. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I love that. And so I often, I know, bring this headspace, I think because it's something that for so long I was challenged with, is this idea of like, my brain wants to go, yeah, but blah, 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 and like fill in the yeah, but. And what, you know, if anyone is feeling, there's this beautiful energy behind what comes through. And when we tap into that experience, and then sometimes our brain has all sorts of things to say about that. And for me, as I was listening and what was coming up and what they were kind of showing me is like, there is so much information out there from ancient cultures to the science of today that's just now putting measurability on what has been known for centuries, that this is real. Quantum physics, you know, the work of Joe Dispenza. Oh shoot, what's his name? He's an epigenetics guy.
Bruce Lipton?
Bruce Lipton, that's the one. Like one of the smartest, like just there's so much out there. And for me, what really supports the resonance, like I can feel that in my body, and then my brain wants to have all sorts of things to say about it. And for me, when I hold the truth of what I know, when I hear those words, when spirit tells me similar things or, you know, similar ideas, using my brain to learn about the things out there that support what we know, because then my brain can have evidence to say, oh, like, it's not just you being, you know, like blinders on or wanting to, you know, just like positive your way out of challenges, or there's tangible things, there's 3D things that can support this knowledge. And for me, I need both, because my brain is very active, and whether that's, you know, trauma and things and whatever, my brain needs to hear the same message, not just from a spirit perspective. I can feel the spirit energy, the spirit perspective of it. but I need to teach myself those same things. So for me, what was coming forth is like, use knowledge and learning of things that are already out there to further support this idea, because the idea that we co-create our reality, like go research the double slit experiment where they've, you know, shown that what is focused on changes when it's focused on. And it's even that is tough to comprehend. And yet it is truth. I had an experience, you know, when Dexter passed away a few weeks ago, where I like cleared my schedule and I just like went deep into my grief. And I feel like I'm pretty good at grief. So I like went into it and I was holding space for it and I was crying. And as I came out of it, I was like, I was not aware of anything else in that moment. My fears, my whatever, my, you know, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that and da 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 da. All of that was out. It's like it was a different life. And I came out of this little kind of pocket of time that I really tried to hold for myself in my grief experience of like, what an example of when what we focus on is what is real. In that moment, all I was focused on was like feeling my love for my little soul dog and feeling my experience and moving through grief in, you know, a healthy, helpful way, expansive way. None of the other stuff was really in my peripheral. And it's not to say we ignore, you know, we find a balance, but for me, it was just such a beautiful example of like when we're really truly present with anything, that is what is truth. And that goes for hard things and that goes for light things, right? It's either are true. And then when we use knowledge and our brains to learn and kind of solidify that which we know is true, I think it just like expands it more and more and more.
That's a great point. Because there is a lot of knowledge out there. Spirit says it all the time. There's so much written word, visual word now on our planet available, channeled, brought through, inspired by, intuited by so many people that we have so much for resources on our planet already. Yeah.
And, you know, ancients and mystics and, you know, from centuries ago to today are saying the same things, you know, it's all coming out, whether it's channelings from higher beings or, you know, whatever it might be, or the tangible research of it. It's replicated again and again and again, which for me creates this like, okay, then that is the truth. How do I support myself and my human, you know, silly little brain in remembering and like grounding into that truth? Because that's for me, that's my biggest thing is my brain is like, yeah, but let me tell you all the things about why you are delulu.
Yeah. The buts. Fair. How about you, Lisa? What are you feeling?
I think I'm just taking it all in. I'm receiving the message energetically as well. Is when I get too in my head, like then that's out of alignment for me. So it's like, yeah, you can integrate your thoughts and stuff, but as soon as I get too in my head, then I know that I'm out of alignment. It's like that's not the way I'm wired as far as like my, I don't know, whole setup. It's if I get stuck here, like if I get stuck in my head, then I know I'm out of an alignment. So with this, I'm just really trying to take in everything and process it through my being and seeing how it resonates through my energy field and through my heart. And I think what came up for me visually when you were channeling was a chess game. And so it's interesting for me because when, I don't know why, okay, I'll just like say it how it is. When I'm in a physical sport, it's like I move through my body and I'm just like, oh, there's nothing better in the world, right? Like any physical sport, I'm full sending because it's just like it's another language to me. Which due to medical reasons, I'm not actually able to do anymore. So I think there's like a part of me that's really missing that for sure. And so I was sitting there in a chess game when you were talking. And the hard part about the chess game is that it is so cerebral. It's anticipating the other person's move and it's being logical about the choices that you make. And because I'm quite hard on myself, I'm thinking like, I can't believe I'm in this chess game of life. I'm up against this partner, and any move I make, I'm like, they're going to see it coming, or I'm not going to be able to, protect my queen or whatever the heck it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the only thing that you can control is your gameplay anyway. And so maybe I'm a bit caught in my head, but I think there's a part of me right now that's feeling like, and I don't know if a lot of other people are experiencing the same thing, of feeling like there's a concept of being in the game and choosing your way of reacting, and that's all you're about, but being almost like, I don't want to say helpless, because I that's not the right word, but I want to say like not confident.
Mm-hmm.
And then how to go forward anyway.
Yeah, like what is the next step when you're not confident, right? Like maybe it is at first to shield, right? So if the ball's coming, if we use that, maybe at first it is to shield. Instead of just standing there and watch the ball hit you in the face, maybe your first move is just shield from it. And that's a move, right? Until you can get to the point where you can do the fancy, like, I don't know, a high kick, corner catch and spin and throw, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it is completely okay to not be confident when you're in that game, or when you start the game, or when you're on the field, or in a moment of it. I think that's completely okay. And I think there's a power in admitting that part too.
Totally. Like, do you ever find it like in it? Like, because like just pulling myself forward and being like, I'm in it. There's been times when I've gone to play a sport or play something and I'm in the game and I don't want to do it. But as soon as I start getting started, then I'm like, okay, I'm into it. Right. It almost feels like that right now. It's almost like a debilitating way of going forward and being like, I just want to rest and restore, but I know it's time to go forward, right? And I'm just like, how do you like energetically kind of take that first step in that confident way of moving forward in your life when you're stuck?
So I have an example of this through dance. I think I've shared it before, but it, through a simple dance experience, became this like metaphor for my life. So I come back to it a lot. So what it was, okay, so I've grown up dancing. I danced for years and years. Then I quit, obviously, when I was later teens, and then I didn't go back to it until several years ago. So I went back into dance thinking I would pick up where I left off in my skill and ability, but it was very humbling to realize that's not the case. So I had to relearn. So anyways, I threw myself into hip hop. Hip hop is not a natural one for me, but I've come to absolutely love it and have grown in it. Now, there are times in the class where we are being taught to do something that is absolutely, completely against the way my body naturally wants to move, because my body likes to move in flow and expression versus like pop and lock and whatever. There have been times, and there was this one significant time where we had to try and learn to twerk, like I've mentioned before. And in that, I was feeling like the biggest dummy, so not a dancer. And all of these narratives came in where I'm just like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing? I look ridiculous. This is so dumb. And all of these like flooded in so fast. And I was like, what is this? And for a moment, I was like, I'm not confident. I'm in an arena where I think I should be confident because I've known dance, but I'm being put in a position where I'm completely not confident. I do not know how to do this move. I don't know how to let my body do it. I don't know anything. I can either in this moment get mad, I could leave class if I really wanted, or I can completely surrender to being an absolute newbie in this moment where I don't know what I'm doing. And how can I embrace it from the point of the newbie in a position where normally I would be really confident, right? So I had to totally flip it on myself. And in that moment, I decided like, I'm going to take this opportunity as a newbie and explore how my body moves. And I'm going to bring in my whole soul and being and the goddess nature of myself and the divine nature of myself that I know can actually do anything and it can help me twerk, right? And it's the simplest, silliest thing, but it was so pivotal because over the next 3 sessions, I let myself go in those moments of not being confident and be completely present and allow myself to look like an idiot, trying to figure out how to move my hips in the way I need to. And there was something so releasing in it.
Very much doubt that you look like an idiot.
Oh, I totally did. I got it now, but I really did. But it was so freeing. And so even in something like dance, I brought in my full spiritual goddess self to be a newbie in that moment and learn this new tiny little thing about the human world and my perspective of it. And so again, like it might seem frivolous, but to me, I look back on that in so many of the things I do now in moments where I'm not confident, where I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, or I shouldn't be doing this or this. It's like I can be good at something and I can also be brand new and not confident and not have the resources.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I can bring my full self into that. So I find like that's kind of what I found I end up doing now is like, how can I bring my full self and gain this new piece? And now I will twerk forevermore in spirit. If I'm ever in spirit haunting you, I'll be
please do. Please do.
Yeah.
Favorite ever.
So I like that you brought up that piece of like confidence and how it's triggering, because it's good to be an expert. And again, I'm just taking like polarities here. It's good to be an expert. It's also good to be brand new.
Yeah.
In some aspect of it. Because I think that helps us stay balanced and humbled and
yeah, absolutely.
all of that. Otherwise,
yeah,
being human with the ego that comes with being human, I think we would get cocky.
Yeah.
If we didn't have these like balancing experience. So there's value in the moments where we're not confident, in the moments where everything feels like it crumbled and we had a tower moment. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know who we are. And we used to know how to play chess, but we don't anymore. We don't even want to be the queen.
Yeah.
But we have to be. And so it's like, hey, ground zero. What can I learn?
So humbling. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. But valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's inevitable to go through that. Like when you're talking, like that rings so true for me as like a parent right now. Because like parenting is something that I've like taken on as like that's my thing, like as being a mama, right? With my like early childhood psychology and like my work and brain development and kids and family work, like that's like, you know, it's my big girl job, right? And so like then having 4 kids and being like, hey, I can do this, I know the development, it's like thinking like, okay, that's my thing. And then having your first teenager and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I'm going to make this choice because that's like all my research and everything I know that this and this and this is true. And then they look back at you and being like, nope. It's like, oh yeah. Hey, how do I stand my ground and keep steady and like believe in what I'm saying and know it's true? And then like really like closing the door and be like, what the hell was that? Like, help me, spirit, please help me guide to and like my oldest as a teen is like, I mean, it's hard, but I mean, like the ones that are coming up behind her, like, those are gonna be like the ringleaders. But anyway, it's humbling when you think that you know something and you're in the game and you're doing it, and then you're faced with something that's like coming at you, and you're literally in the middle of it, and you're like, I have no idea what to do, and I'm frozen. I don't know how to take the next step. I'm frozen. And then all the cerebral stuff comes up, right? That, oh my God, now this means I can't do this. I'm screwed. Like I'm done. You know, everybody cashing their season tickets. It's done. It's over. The whole thing is crumbling. Take down the stadium. I'm out. You know, like that's the thing that goes. And when you're in it, it's really hard to see the other side. It's hard to see that, like, no, the second half you'll have presented with this and then you can do it, but it's always a retrospective perspective. You know what I mean? When you're in it and you're frozen because you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing and I want to throw in the towel, and you can't. You literally can't. Like, I mean, you can, but like not really. It's like, man, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, vulnerability comes in really big there, and like being okay being vulnerable. Isn't that one of the hardest things? Like in anything, any conversation, any action, any new thing, is that vulnerability. Even like a new job. I don't know if you're, maybe this was just me, but you know, the first day on a new job is always just blah,
literally
because
the worst. It's
you know,
literally the
it is,
worst.
you know nothing, and you have to go in that day. You
Yeah.
can't bypass that day
Yeah.
or that week, whatever it is, until you get in the flow. Like, you have to do it. And it's so
Yeah.
vulnerable. But what I try to think of now in those moments when I have to do something, or like a new presentation on a topic that's like stretching me, or I don't have all the resources or something, is I think about like how much it's going to pay off in some moment in retrospect. And so I almost do it as like an investment to
Yeah.
the retrospect that will come.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be one of those things. I just know it. I
Okay,
don't know
so this
exactly
is
why.
interesting. And I like this because how often do we hear be in the moment? The only moment you have is right now. Be in the moment, be in the moment. And that's very true. And I get that. But sometimes being in that moment is really scary and hard for somebody. And it's almost too much. Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, when that's what it has come up for me a lot. It's like, oh, this is, the universe's, sign for you to stay in the moment, or to surrender to the right now. Just like surrender and be in this moment right now. But that moment right now doesn't feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you do with that, Elise? You're really good with those things. What do you do when like the moment doesn't feel safe, even from a somatic perspective? Like, what would you say for someone in a moment that present moment is not okay, is a burning building, metaphorically?
Yeah, it's like, well, in a burning building, I would recommend you find the nearest exits. And
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to seem distracted. I was just writing some things down. If I don't write them down, then they just leave my brain forever.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about in the moment of like newness or something that's really scary or uncomfortable.
Yeah, like being present. When you hear the words like be present, be surrender to the right now. And when that right now is like, I feel like the worst ever, and it doesn't feel safe to be in the right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I feel like what happens for a lot of people is in our brain, we're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel safe. I'm scared. And we'll have this narrative. And then we think, oh, we're feeling our feelings. We're not. We're intellectualizing our feelings. We're thinking about our feelings. And so for me, this is where like the somatic work is so important, and I've been seeing it more and more in my own life, how significantly it's subtle, and it's annoyingly subtle because my brain wants to be like, show me some big, like mind-blowing thing. But it's the moments of, oh my God, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. Okay, so let's use the new job analogy just to kind of like work with something. Okay, I'm at a new job. I feel really out of my like norm. I feel out of my comfort zone. I don't know anybody. I don't know where the friggin' pens are. I don't know like how to add the printer to the computer. I don't know who to ask because I don't know who's nice and who's not nice. All the things. And that like overwhelming sense of, oh my God, I like starting to freeze. For me, what I would do now, didn't do this before, but what I would do now in my cubicle, I would go sit in a, toilet stall. I would do something and I would sink into my body. And when I say that, it's like, okay, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. Where do I feel that? Okay, I feel it in my chest. I feel this tightness. What does that tightness look like? Okay, well, it feels like a clenching. Okay, I feel like I can't fully take a breath. Okay, what does that look like? And then maybe I don't go right into it, but I stay around it, because maybe going right into it feels too much. If it feels accessible, then do that. But if it doesn't, it's like, okay, let's stay around the edges of it. What do I notice? I feel like, okay, there's a tightness in my chest, and it's like there's a balloon almost, and it's preventing me from taking this breath. Okay, can I just notice, what is the color of the balloon? What is the sensation of it? It feels like there's a ball in my chest. Okay, can I just breathe around that balloon? And we take steps that invite comfort and presentness without like triggering more of it. If it starts to feel overwhelming, it's like, okay, what can I find in my body right now that feels safe or feels grounded or feels peaceful? Maybe it's that my feet are on the floor. Maybe I need to uncross my feet. What would my body need right now to create comfort? Maybe I need to like hold myself. For me, I always put my hand right around like the base of my neck, and I hold myself, and maybe I curl forward and I plant my feet on the ground, and I just notice that I'm holding myself. I notice that I feel comforted by this. And then maybe I start to notice the feeling in my chest again. but that chest feeling maybe has shifted a little bit. And we're not going into it with the intention of changing it, but we're just holding space for what is. So there's the narrative of an emotion only lasts 90 seconds. And most people are like, bullshit. No, it doesn't. But it's because we're thinking about the emotion. We're not experiencing the emotion. So when and it's not to say that it's always 90 seconds, because I think sometimes we just have to like really deeply be with things and process them, or it can lead to other emotions and things to process and be with. But like going into it and creating safety and comfort, and maybe that feels really overwhelming to do it for a handful of minutes. So you just hold yourself and breathe. For me, it's creating comfort in the moment in whatever way I can in my body and in my experience. And then edging towards what is happening in my body right now. What do I notice? And it's not, and if your brain's like, oh, but you're feeling like that because you're in a new job and nobody likes you and blah, 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 you don't know what you're going to do and blah, 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 then it's like, okay, that's my brain again. That's not intellectualizing it. Okay, what is happening in my body? And like, it's, and that takes practice, right? If it's not something we've done, it's like, something that we have to return to, because our brain is really good at telling us that you're going to die. Nothing's okay. You need to like get yourself out of this situation, fight, flight, freeze,
yes,
et cetera.
Yeah.
And especially because most of us have had lifetimes of being taught that that's how we deal with things. It takes time to build that muscle of, okay, brain, thank you. The building is not literally burning right now, just so we're clear, right? It's actually that I just feel really uncomfortable. And that's what this feels like.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
That's great. That's helpful. That's really helpful.
One of the things that was coming through that I was writing down was when the two of you were talking, was part of what's happening right now is, so as we can look around, consciousness is rising. We are growing. We are evolving. We are becoming more and more conscious. We're ascending into the 5D, all the things. That's amazing. But with that comes the fear, right? The fear is directly connected to that consciousness rising, because the fear is what prevented the consciousness from rising in the first place. So they are intrinsically connected. And so it's about understanding that there is more, and the duality of our experience is increasing more and more and more. And so the analogy that they showed me is like, when you're like lost, you're driving and you're like trying to like be like, okay, where do I need to go? And you're trying to like really get into that present moment, and you turn down the radio because you're like, I just can't listen to like, Taylor Swift. I can't listen to you right now. I need to like focus on what I'm doing. They're saying that like the radio is being turned up. We can't turn the radio down right now. The radio is being turned up. So it's creating this distortion and this duality where we're more conscious, we're more connected. We know the truth of things more and more and more, but yet the radio is being turned up louder and louder and louder to kind of drown that out. And it's creating this very intense experience of panic in our bodies, because we're like, I don't know what to do with this. Like it feels so overwhelming. And, going back to what you were saying, Jeanette, about like the newness, it's like, that is a new experience. We have not, to this intensity, experienced this before. This is new for us. This knowledge of 5D and conscious growth and the truth of our experience on this earth is not new, but our awareness of it, our feeling of it is new. And the duality that comes with that, of the intense fear and the intense energy, is also new. And so we are in this place of, holy shit, I have never played this game before. And all of a sudden I'm in like the World Series, and like, I don't know, I can't hit a baseball to save my life. Like, that's just not, how do I, and everybody's watching, and there's this pressure. But then the irony of that is it creates this cycle, because part of our 3D experience is you can't not be good at things. You can't be vulnerable. Don't be afraid. You can't be new at something. That's embarrassing. You don't know how to twerk. Like, okay, you probably should get out of the class. Like it triggers this conditioning that we've had our entire lives of not enoughness, of always trying to be better, to strive for more, to, get more, do more, be more. That's just not inherently truth. So it's like this cyclical, again, it's like duality on top of duality.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
That
question
is
for
so
you guys
disorienting.
then.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Okay, this is coming up. So with this, what this just aha moment when you were talking, Elise, when you said like with this new energy, this new really high frequency energy, this 5D, this like collective raising of our consciousness is coming forward and we're experiencing it very much. With it comes the duality of it, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, like that really rings true, because I've experienced some of the highest highs with spirit and ascension and, you know, collective consciousness and understanding. And like, I've experienced it in my body, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. But then also it's almost like accompanied with this, like these feelings of low, right? This duality of like this, like consciousness being like, okay, you know what? This is altogether too much. I don't really want to do this anymore, you know? So the light and the dark. My question then is these feelings that come up in that duality, that when you feel the highs and you feel the lows. So, gee, you've talked about this as the pendulum before.
Mm-hmm.
Is it our opportunity then to transmute the such big duality of it and bring it back into this kind of neutrality? Or is it when you're experiencing these highs and then kind of swing back into the lows, is that kind of the opportunity to transmute the density that comes with it, the flip side, the moon, the shadow work to it? Is it an opportunity to transmute it? Or is it that opportunity to not have all the highs of the high frequency, then the lows, and bring it back into the neutrality of it? What is the lesson in it? Do we want to, like, we talk about being in our highest consciousness, right? The highest conscious timeline. I talk about that. So when I'm feeling my highs, I'm like, this is my highest timeline. This is what I've brought myself to. Or is that me just experiencing the pendulum of swooping too far up? Does this make sense? Did I make that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. And my thought is that I think it's all of it at any given time. Because I think to try and answer that with like a yes or no or a this versus that is too linear. And the reason why I say that is because I think we're becoming so multifaceted in our consciousness, depending on what layer needs the pendulum swing for recognition, or what event
That's what I mean.
brings
When
it
we
forward.
swing back and we're in this like shadow time, like deep, and some of us it's more than others, right? Is that the opportunity then to transmute that energy so that that shadow and that shit doesn't really surface anymore? Or is that just a part of it? Is that just something to be expected, that you, with that highs, you're going to experience the lows?
I think it's both again. Because I think to think that we'll never experience lows once we transmute everything, I don't think that's true in my knowledge at this point of the human perspective. But I think the more we take the opportunities to transmute those low things, the next time we end up in a similar situation of the low, it affects us less. We take it less personally.
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
there are still experiences there. Because what I've found with that pendulum swing is Spirit's continual narrative to me of like, don't take it personally, don't take it personally, don't take it personally. Even when it's a thing about me, it's like, don't take it personally, beat yourself up, but just, what is it telling you? What can you transmute? What can you learn? And the next time something like that comes around, it is less of a personal attack on you. And therefore you can react more of like, what do I need to do about this? How do I change it, shift it, whatever? And then I think in many cases it does happen less, but I don't think we can ever eliminate the swing, because I think that swing is part of being human on this earth. Right. But our effect or the punch or the kickback we get of the swing becomes less and less the more we transmute every time. And
depending on what it is that you're looking at, what has been eliminated or shadowed, right? Because sometimes it's like, oh, this again. Okay, I remember this. And that, you know, and then sometimes it's like straight up in your face, like, holy shit, I'm done now. That's it. This is all for me, right? Because we haven't maybe faced it as many times, or we don't have as much practice twerking, you know.
I think too, it's both in what you said, Lisa, in that it also gives us the opportunity, and maybe this is kind of tangentially tied to what you were saying, Jeanette, about like not taking it personally, is that when we notice the duality happening, can we step up to a higher perspective, not better, but just being able to see the whole picture, and then to say, okay, this is what's happening, and I'm just aware of it, and I'm noticing it, and I'm experiencing it. I think this is where the language of like, everything happens for a reason, and through the darkness there's growth, and like those kind of bypassy statements that were like, okay, great, but like, how do I deal with the stuff? I think that's where a lot of these things come from, because when we can look at it from the higher level perspective and see the bird's eye view of things, it's like, I can see that through grief, there's so much love and expansiveness. I can see that through really hard experiences in life, there's personal growth, there's the silver linings that can come.
Totally.
But it's like we can't get to that place until we learn how to navigate through that ping-ponging. It's like, let's stop the ping-ponging. Let's just observe the ping-ponging.
That's what I mean. It's like, well, this is the game. Takes us back to the channel, right? Like we're in it. And I feel that difference, G. I feel like that was like super purposeful for me, because sitting back and observing it for me is very, very helpful. But in this last week, I have felt like I was in the game. And it felt like it was a chess game, and it was very cerebral. And I was like anticipating the other move, and I was really hard on myself for not knowing what to do. Right. But that doesn't take me out of the spot. Right. I kind of want to flip the table and all the pieces go flying, but then that's not going to help. Right.
I think too, what we can do with that idea also is like realize that we have the ability to like zap into the perspective from the stands, suss out what's happening, and then zap back into what do I want to do now? Like that ability to expand and then come back and then expand and come back. True. We have that ability. So we're not just in the stands. We're not just in the game. We're both, but we can choose at any time, which way do I need to see this? How can I reframe this? What do I need to learn?
Right.
So there's value in both of the things that they're saying.
Right. Because sometimes it does require you to step back and take a look at it from a bird's eye perspective, because then you see the whole play, right? You're not just right in it. But when you are in it and it's your turn, it's your time to go. It's like you can't go from the bleachers, right? It's like, okay, no, I'm up. I'm up.
Yeah.
God, it brings me back to my track and field days when I'm on the line and I'm waiting for the gun to go, and I'm just like
so stressful.
My shoes, but it's like that, like full-fledged going. Oh man, I miss those days.
And I feel like this is like a primary example of why only being in a spiritual perspective doesn't work. You can always, if I just always stay in this bird's eye view, I'm not in the game.
No, but I love that. It feels so nice.
It does. But then I think that your point though, or the point exactly from what you just said, is that can we bring that into the game with us? Right. And then that's where it comes to not taking it personally and not feeling like the world is a constant attack on us, knowing that like that is how the 3D is set up. Right. And that's why we're seeing it all falling apart around us, triggering this primal fear of, I'm not going to survive this. And, it kind of then takes it to this next layer, which Jeanette, I know you were saying on your podcast, you're having a conversation about death and dying. So I'm curious if this came up, but like, is death the worst thing? Who sold us that idea? Who sold us that death is the worst thing?
I don't think
and and it's not to negate the pain of losing someone or the pain of that experience of grief, but if we know that our nervous system was developed to steer us away from death, that is a primary piece of knowledge that can be used to create fear around your existence. You will not survive if X, Y, and Z happens. That is something that can keep us stuck. And not to say, that we're all going to die, but it's just to say that like, if it's used in a way that creates this intense fear in us, that keeps us from consciously evolving. The fear is what it goes back to, that like consciousness and fear, they're tied. And so if the fear of I will not survive this and whatever like fill in the blank issue is what's constantly playing in our body, it will try to mute that conscious evolution. So it comes back to like what we were saying is how can we hold both? How can we create safety? How can we remind ourselves that like the spirit world is beautiful and, you know, is death hard? Yes. Is it sad? Yes. Do we want to lose people? No. But is it the worst thing? A lot of ancient cultures would say no, it's not. And so I think it's this layers and layers and layers of unlearning the 3D experience that has been placed on top of our consciousness that has really just been created consciously or unconsciously with a tie to the fear of our survival in whatever way, shape, or form that is.
Yeah, I think that's
and that's not easy.
No,
either.
it's not easy.
And to say, you know,
yeah,
be in the stands and on the game is it's something to learn.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to we're new and it's new and we're insecure and vulnerable in this new space.
Absolutely. Amazing.
Well, with that, we've gotten a bunch of I don't know, ideas and perspectives that have come up today that might leave you with more questions or it might leave you with some peace, but it will definitely get you thinking and feeling and observing, and that's the whole point, right? The whole point is to see it from different perspectives and experience it all, because that's why we're here. So I hope that this resonated with everybody in some point, in some way, shape, or form. And this was a big one. Like, I feel like there's a lot of tidbits that were in this one today. So, you know, give yourself a sec after watching this and maybe go back and see different things again and like re-listen to different aspects that maybe were what you feel is directed at you and what you really needed to hear today, because there's a lot of energy within each word that needs to be transmuted. And so I know I will. I know that going back, I'm going to have to go back and listen to this a few times to be able to like really digest the messages in it all, because there was a lot. Yeah. So thanks again for such thought-provoking conversation, and ultimately just like beautiful space being held for all of it. So appreciate it.
All right. Okay, everyone. We will see you all next week. Have a good one.